Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And because I promised Russ that we would start getting into basketball, the trivia... Finally, that's right. The trivia theme is NBA coaches.
Not my super strong point, but I'll probably be okay.
Yeah, I think you will. Let me just take a look ahead of time. I think, you will do okay. Knowing you how much you love basketball.
Better than 1940s baseball, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, come on. I'm sure you could give me every member of the 41 Yankees. It's funny. My dad used to play poker with this guy, and he was like really young. He was only like, early 30s. And now this is back in the 70s. So, but the thing is, he memorized the starting lineup for like the 1932 Philadelphia Phillies. It was like, what?
Well, if that's what you, and then the guy probably doesn't know where he put his car keys.
Probably, yes. Yeah. So when we get back, a couple of things. We will talk a little baseball. Just hey, the Rangers finally win the World Series, which is fun, and definitely some football. There was.
I don't know. I didn't find it fun, but I'm glad that you did.
Well, yeah, I did, mostly because they lost to our Giants, which is fine, but then they were within one strike of the St. Louis, and they lost. So I am kind of happy for them. And the Diamondbacks have won it.
Yeah, they won in 2000.
Yeah, 2001. Yeah, but that was really exciting because it was after 9/11, and Luis Gonzalez had the major hit. That was kind of fun. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Do not touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Russell Jackman. All right. First, let's just really touch on the Texas Rangers finally winning the World Series. Good old Bruce Bochy, who did it for our Giants for three times.
But no manager has ever taken a team that has lost 100 games in the previous 2 years. They lost 100 and then 94, and still managed to win a World Series in his first year as coach.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, so Bruce is certainly if he wasn't in the Hall of Fame before this, which I would have said that he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame
for sure.
What he did with the Giants, he's now solidified that. Now he can reserve his bust and his statue over at now we'll probably get a statue made for him over at Texas Stadium.
Yeah, after winning one, sure.
Yeah, he might be the first coach to get two statues in two different cities.
I wonder, I'd have to kind of like go back to the season and see, what specific moves he made that really impacted because obviously it's the players who play. Coaches obviously have some, managers have.
They were a 94 loss team last year, so it's not just players playing. I mean, to reverse your standings and to win 90 games after you lose 94 is really, not something that we're ever going to see that often.
Yeah, but how much of it has to do with, and again, I'm not taking anything away from Bochy, but how much of it has to do with decisions he specifically made, right? It's like a hit and run is a decision he makes versus a pitcher just happens to have a good day.
Yeah, but maybe Bruce was able to get this team to believe in itself. Mm-hmm. That is one thing that people said about what he did with the Giants is have them believe in their potential and their ability to be a better team.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, you really didn't get that with Gabe Kapler because of his belief so much in analytics that if you just didn't have the numbers, you weren't going to play that day. And Gabe Kapler wouldn't just ever manage by his gut or by his intuition. And that was the one thing that people said was, a hallmark of Bochy is, getting away from the analytics and
Yeah.
instead, believing in what he felt was the right matchup or the right player to play. And he
Yeah.
certainly gave guys a lot more leeway as far as being in the game, even when they weren't playing that well. He would just yank them and throw them down on the lineup. And that was one thing about Kapler, is that the lineup for the Giants, there was no sort of stable lineup for the
No
Giants
consistency on that. Okay.
for the 3 years that he was coach. The lineup probably never stayed the same for more than maybe 4 times in a year.
Yeah, that
And
does kind of get to a team, yeah, because I don't want to say they're like children, but they like consistency probably.
yeah, no, I mean, baseball players are much more rhythm based and routine based than
Yeah,
any other athlete. I think mainly because of the time, how long the season is. But they just tend to
yeah,
be also superstitious, and when something works, they want to keep it working, and when
yeah.
something doesn't work, they want to change everything.
Well,
So
especially when it's, batter versus pitcher, you're in there by yourself, doesn't matter what else is going on. Whereas with football, you're playing as a team, same thing with
yeah,
basketball. So I get that. And speaking of getting changes here, the what's the latest going on with the Raiders? Good old Josh McDaniel, excuse me, is out, and Jimmy G. I think it's
he's
two
been a
things.
disaster
Yeah.
there. He's been a disaster. As a 49er fan, I am so glad we ditched. I mean, it's like selling a car and then getting off the lot, or getting out of your parking, your driveway, and as soon as it's like down the block, it like blows up.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he seems like a really nice guy, but it's like you could tell even when he was with the 49ers, it's like, he really wasn't that. I know they were winning, but you knew it was just a matter of time before it was going to catch up. He's
Yeah, and
not a good
I think
quarterback.
a lot of times they won despite
Correct.
Garoppolo versus because of him, and
Yes,
that's a big
exactly.
difference.
Exactly.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Now the Raiders are a total mess, and I really think that they are burning out of their goodwill and the honeymoon period
Vegas.
in
Yeah.
Vegas, and I think
Yeah.
one more year like this, people might start not showing up for the games, or the only people that will show up are the tourists that want to see their team play against Vegas
Yeah.
in Las Vegas. It's not going to be the number of indigenous fans, especially, no offense, but if you're
Yeah.
an Oakland fan
Yeah.
that's been spited by the team, and you're
Yeah.
still flying out to Vegas, and you're still buying Raiders merchandise, you are an idiot.
Well, listen,
Really?
I still have hard feelings when they went down to LA and
Yeah.
it was 82 or something, 81.
Yeah,
Um,
and you've been when you've been passed over for two different cities,
yeah,
and you also think about how the Raiders ruined the Oakland Coliseum too
yeah,
with that Mount Davis, and
yeah,
so Mark Davis has basically ruined two teams, not
yeah,
just
yeah.
not just the
And
Raiders,
again,
but
the Oakland Coliseum was not a good stadium after so many years.
no, but the Mount Davis thing
Yeah,
made it worse before it ever, made it unfixable, and really, ruin the experience for the A's fans.
well, why don't you explain that to the audience who's not familiar with the Oakland Coliseum?
Yeah, now first of all, Oakland Coliseum, a lot of people don't realize that it is one of the last stadiums that exist in existence. That's the last one in existence that was a multi-use stadium that
Yeah,
was used for both football and baseball. And because the two of them shared that uncomfortable reality, um, when Al Davis moved back to Oakland, he insisted that the middle section of the stands
yeah, so-
be expanded to make what was called Mount Davis, which is like this weird, like, huge tower of seats that just stuck right in the middle of the of center field. And it was fine for football, but for baseball, it's just a gigantic eyesore that they never even come close to filling up.
Yeah.
And it took up a lot of other good prime seats so they could make it taller and larger to fit more people. And it was a huge disaster, and they never filled it up anyway. A lot of people
I was gonna say
don't
with
remember
football. Dude.
that the nickname for the Raiders here was the silver and blacked out, because a lot of times they wouldn't show Raiders games because at home, because they weren't sold out. And that's the part of the weird NFL blackout rule, which again, I don't really understand, but
Well, it's
it's
just the idea is, hey, listen, you got to get more people to go. But the thing is, if I go to the game, then I can't watch it on TV. So it's not for me specifically. But
there's
okay,
much more money to be made off of the TV than in person, going and
yeah,
selling tickets in person.
yeah,
You
especially
know,
if you like the
that
Raiders
that
is
is the big difference of
international.
modern society, is that
Yeah,
you make so much more money off of being on TV, even if nobody shows up in the stands.
good point. Okay, tell you what, we're going to go to our first commercial trivia question here. We're talking NBA coaches. Don Nelson, you remember him, was the
Yes.
coach of which team from 1997 to 2005? Okay, Don Nelson was the coach of which team from 1997 to 2005? All right, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Our first trivia question was, we're talking NBA coaches. Don Nelson was the coach of which team from 1997 to 2005?
It's the only time he won a title, and that was with the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, Dallas Mavericks won in 2011. But
that was
but you are correct about
he was the
being the
GM.
Dallas
I'm sorry, he
Mavericks.
was the GM. He was the GM, and wasn't it Donnie Nelson that won the title? His son.
That's possible. So we still give you credit for the answer, Dallas Mavericks, but you're not right with him winning in 2005. But that's okay.
He did win I think he was still there as the GM in 2011.
Possibly.
He retired right after that.
Okay.
And just a quick word about Don Nelson is that one is that he's living the life of a god in Maui. And he donated a lot of money and a lot of resources to the people of Maui when the fires happened. And I really gained a lot of new respect for him and how much he helped people during the fires. So that was a nice thing about Don. And he did finally he won one with as a GM, but I don't think he ever won one as a coach.
No, I don't think so. And I didn't really care for him as the Raider. God, who am I thinking?
Warriors.
As the Warriors. Thank you very much. I didn't really care for him as the coach. I kept thinking he kept playing he's playing these guys who was like, ugh. I mean,
it was his conflict with Weber that really, threw the gauntlet down. I mean, he got rid of Chris Webber for Billy Owens, and that was maybe one of the biggest mistakes in NBA history.
So wait, the PJ Carlesimo thing. Oh, wait a minute.
Sprewell.
That was Sprewell. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, no, he got rid of Chris Webber after a year
of being Golden
State. After we'd already made, and you know what? That was 30 years ago that Golden State traded Penny Hardaway for Chris Webber. That just that trade it was.
Wait, now what about Tim Hardaway?
He was already gone at that point.
He was already gone by that point. Okay, because
they already. And that's the other thing is he didn't keep Run TMC around that long. He traded Mitch Richmond. He traded Hardaway. He just kept Mullen, and then he didn't keep Weber around that long, and he couldn't find himself a big man. He couldn't find himself a big man that he would ever rely on, and in doing so, the Warriors missed out on some pretty good opportunities I think, to at least go to an NBA Finals, and maybe not
Yeah.
win a title with Jordan around, but he could have possibly contended for one. So I do feel that the Warriors missed out on an opportunity there. But 4 championships later with Steph Curry,
That's true.
the Warriors just won their 5th road game
Yeah.
last night against Detroit.
Yeah.
And in doing, remember last year they only won 10 road games entirely. And here it is, in the first month of the season, they've won 5 road games.
Well, let's see, they got rid of Jordan Poole and they
That was a
acquired
big
Chris Paul.
addition by subtraction. But maybe
Yeah.
a bigger addition by subtraction is James Wiseman. By getting rid of him and getting GP2 back, Gary Payton II back,
Yeah.
the Warriors are a much, much, much better team.
Yeah.
With GP, now he's healthy. He's giving us a lot of minutes and playing very well.
Yeah.
And Wiseman last night didn't score, played 11 minutes. He's only scored 4 points and had 5 rebounds so far this season.
So maybe it's just he's still,
Maybe he
he's
sucks. Maybe he just sucks.
Well, that's possible too. That's possible.
Maybe he's the Les Jepsen of this particular era.
The who?
Maybe he's the Geert Hamannik of this era.
Oh, I kind of remember.
Maybe he's the Chris Washburn of this era. Although he's not on drugs. I mean, Washburn's problem, but in some ways, Washburn's problem at least was drugs. So you could at least point at that and say that's his problem. With Wiseman, you don't even have drugs as a problem. You just
got height.
Yeah, but he's also got no heart. He really, truly has no heart for playing basketball.
Now I wonder how much do you think he makes a year?
Not that much, because he's still on a rookie salary.
But it's still a rookie. Still makes what, 800,000 or something?
No, more like around 400.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah.
I thought the minimum got bumped up to like
maybe because he got taken as the number 2, he might get more than that, but it's not. It's under $1 million a year, and the way that these NBA players spend their money, $1 million a year isn't really going to last very long.
Yeah, but it's still, again, and I don't know the mindset of him specifically, but some of these guys, they've never seen that kind of money before, and it's just sort of. I mean, I remember, we've had John Kingdon on when we talked to Raiders, and he talked about Jamarcus Russell, and you get this huge contract, and it's like, yeah, okay, I made my money, and yeah, I like football, but yeah, I don't want to get hurt, and just all these things that these guys go through, and you don't know what's in their mind.
No, and right now, I mean, I think when it comes to James Wiseman, it's a giant blank slate. I mean, it's he doesn't have the desire, and he doesn't have the fire to be in the NBA. He's just just being big isn't enough of a reason to be playing in the NBA. You have to look, and the perfect example is Gary Payton II. Gary Payton II is like 1.5 feet shorter than James Wiseman, but his heart is 1,000,000 times bigger than Wiseman, and he's making things happen as a guy who's 6'3" or 6'2" versus a guy that's 7'2" or 7'3", and literally just sleepwalking his way through. Look at Webb Mignogna for another example, as a guy who really wants it. I mean, he's getting in there and he's making the difference happen for San Antonio. And Wiseman has almost all the same physical attributes. I mean, he's over 7 feet and he's got physical ability, but he just doesn't have the heart to want to be among one of the elite players in the NBA, and it shows. And I have a feeling that after this year, he may not be on Detroit, and after Detroit's done with him, he may be done in the league entirely.
Maybe he doesn't like to fly in airplanes.
I guess, but this was a home game and he sucked.
Oh, okay. There you okay, so scratch that one off. But it's funny. I'm thinking about adding players, subtracting players. I still remember going to the event where Mark Jackson was being introduced as a Warriors coach. And I think that was also the same day that they announced that they were getting rid of Monte Ellis. and everybody just booed, because they
No,
were
that was
bringing on
not
Chris.
that was the Chris Mullen retirement jersey. They were retiring Chris Mullen's jersey at that night. But Mark Jackson was already coached then.
Okay, so but I remember when they announced they're getting rid of Monte Ellis, just the crowd just booed like
Oh
crazy.
yeah,
Special event.
for an injured Andrew Bogut, yes, that was. But Mark Jackson was coach currently at
Okay.
that time,
All
so
right.
they
But
weren't
then,
booing him.
Steph Curry, who's this guy from Davidson,
Yeah, yeah, and the rest is history.
Well, and then hopefully this bye week for the 49ers will kind of get them back on track, because Brock Purdy has not looked like Brock Purdy the last.
I'm not as concerned about Brock Purdy. I really am not. I
Okay.
am majorly concerned about the defense,
Yeah,
and I am
yeah,
hoping.
our secondary is terrible.
Well, they weren't meant to be that good because our pass rush was supposed to be so awesome that
Yeah.
you could get away with mediocre secondary because they wouldn't be tested that hard because guys would be having quarterbacks would have to hurry to get the throw
Yeah,
off.
but you can't take that attitude. It's like what did Hank Stram say? NFL stands for not for long. If you're going to be playing
I
like
remember that from Glanville, from Jerry Glanville saying,
Glanville, yeah.
yes.
Actually, yeah, I think you're right. I know. I was thinking of Hank Stram for the Chiefs when he would say, hey, that was a good call, ref. That was a really good call.
Yeah. Sorry, said
Right,
so
right. Well,
sarcastically.
it was for the Falcons, Glanville. Yeah, let's see here. We got a quick minute before we go. So, what do you, Chris Paul? He has added very nicely. He's finally getting his shooting touch. It seems like a really nice addition for the 40.
He's just what the Warriors needed, which was a
Yeah.
guy that can play both shooting guard and point guard for when Curry needs to sit down or when Clay needs to sit down. He's been the perfect intermediate guy. A lot of people don't remember there was a guy that the Warriors had named Jarrett Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Who did the same kind of thing and maybe made the dumbest decision in the history of sports, which was that he forced the Warriors' hand and said, I need to be the starter. You need to start me over Steph Curry or start me over Klay Thompson. And one of those two guys needs to come off the bench, not me. And the Warriors looked him in the face, said, go on over to New Orleans. We'll, see ya. Don't want to be ya.
Yeah.
And his career went completely into the garbage can.
Well, even towards the end of it, it was he made some just bonehead mistakes. I remember in his last. Okay, tell you what. Here we're going to get to our next commercial break. Here, trivia question: NBA coaches. Jerry, this is an easy one for you. Jerry Sloan coached which team from 1988 to 2011?
Oh yeah,
you know this one. Okay,
yes,
of course you do. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Russell Jackman. Our second trivia question. I always wanted to give Russell a little bit of softball.
Oh, these ones are really soft.
Okay.
These ones are really.
These ones, yeah. And in fact, I think even the next one will be even easier for you. All right, Jerry Sloan coached which team, from 1988 to 2011?
I mean, I don't think you can think of the Utah Jazz from that time period and not think about Jerry Sloan.
Yeah, or
the two of them were absolutely synonymous with each other, and he coached a lot of really qualified teams. I mean, those
they lost to the Bulls.
Twice.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the and then here's an really easy bonus question for you. Where did when they went to the Jazz? I'm sorry. Let me try this again. The Jazz. There you go. That's the question I was going to ask.
You didn't have to ask the question. I knew what the question was.
You knew what the question was, yeah. And then obviously,
they went because where do you find Jazz in Utah anyway?
Exactly. Okay. Hey, going back to football for a minute here. So because it's funny, we were talking about the 49ers secondary not being very good. And I just saw this morning the Chargers general manager, Tom Telesco, apologized to the defensive backs for signing cornerback J.C. Jackson. They had traded him 17 months after signing him to a 5-year, $82 million contract. He had a tumultuous tenure, and it's funny because I'd never heard of a GM apologizing to the specific guys who worked with him. Right? It's like,
Mark Davis should be, filling out something like, a list of 1,000 things that he's done wrong. So yeah, I mean, it's nice, but what I don't think it changes any of the fans' attitude towards the losing. So you can apologize all you want, but fans are gonna not show up because you're not winning, and that's gonna eventually really hurt you, probably more than even anything the team feels about stuff.
yeah, I just think it's kind of interesting. It's like, because the cornerback, he's got to play with the safety and the defensive backs. And it's sort of like, okay, here's your teammate. And then after it's a disaster, you go to those guys and go, I'm sorry for signing this guy who, didn't help you out at all.
I think a firing probably comes after something like that. I would
Yeah.
not be surprised if he got shown the door. One thing I also wanted to talk real quickly about, and that is, have you seen Winning Time at all? The
LA Lakers.
yeah, the story of
I did see the first set. It was, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons or something like that. I'm trying to remember, didn't they come out with another?
Yeah, there was a second one and it didn't do well in the ratings, so they're not doing a third one. But the second season is absolutely fantastic, and I really want to suggest that you go check it out, especially the third episode, which is actually all about Larry Bird. And
okay, yeah.
The guy, first of all, the guy that got to be Larry Bird really looks like Larry Bird.
Oh yeah, no wait. Okay, so I did see the first like full set, like as though it was over.
Right. So, no, and then there's a second season of Winning Time.
Okay, maybe that's.
But there's only 7 episodes.
Okay.
And it's so good. Yeah. The show is so good. I'm really depressed that I only have 2 shows left, and then the season ends, and I'm like, I want more of it. I really, there's so much stuff, because it all deals with the right now is they're dealing with the Paul Westhead transition over to Pat Riley.
Oh yeah.
And how all that,
well, wait a minute, you know what? That's what I'm saying is I saw, like, last year, I saw like the whole thing. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Then if you say, because there were only 7 episodes.
Yeah.
You didn't think that Larry Bird episode was absolutely exceptional?
Oh, it was awesome. But again, like you said, the guy who played him was phenomenal. And but he was a nasty little guy, wasn't he?
but the other thing is that we never really knew much about Larry Bird. I mean, he never talked, he never said anything to the press. So his story about, like, how his father committed suicide and how he almost quit, and after his first year in Indiana, and I mean, what with the whole, because me and my other friend, we're huge NBA fans. We talk about it like all the time. I talk to him. He's a Kings fan. We talk, at night about it. And what would the world be like if Larry Bird had quit in that first year in Indiana?
Well, okay, so I remember back in '79, for whatever reason, just the NBA was just going downhill fast.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. In fact, they even made an announcement that the Magic Bird basically saved basketball back then.
That's what I'm saying. If Bird had decided to quit after 1 year in Indiana and never goes, and there's never the Bird Magic rivalry, and just Magic came into the NBA, and there was a lot of people who weren't happy with Magic. That's one thing that they show, in this Winning Time, is that there were a lot of people that didn't like his showboating, didn't like the fact that he got Westhead fired, didn't like the fact that he hadn't proven himself. He had a knee injury that kept him out for a number of games before that. And I mean, the whole NBA future was riding on that Bird Magic rivalry.
Interesting too, because they kind of made Jabbar out to be elite. I don't know. I didn't like Jabbar's character. Now, again, maybe that's what really happened, but I don't know. It always seemed like he was bigger than what,
Guy
you know what I mean? It's
play-
like, they made him to be kind of an a-hole, so to
Well,
speak.
but the guy who plays Kareem,
Oh, he does a great job.
exceptional. And I
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
hope that as a result of that show, that they maybe try to do a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar like
Oh, yeah.
series.
Oh, and the guy they had the guy who played Magic Johnson was phenomenal.
He was great too.
Yeah.
I would take those two guys and do, just a show on the
Yeah.
life of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, the 20-year career that he had
Yeah.
would bring just absolute amazing stories, and the guy
Oh, yeah.
is phenomenal, and he looks and sounds exactly like a young Kareem. That
Yeah.
sometimes blows me away how they're able to find people that just
Yes.
absolutely, fit every check every box.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to fit everything. In fact, it was in what I thought was really kind of one of my favorite characters was the guy who played Jerry West. Again, he kind of looked like him enough, and but apparently Jerry was not very happy with him for
No, no.
that
That's
whole
one of the
thing.
reasons why the show is struggling, I think, is that he was trying to sue them, and I'm not sure. Actually, the guy who really nails it is Riley as
Oh, yeah, John C. Well, I didn't know much about Dr. Bus, but John C. Riley is great.
he's amazing. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. I love
Yeah.
him. I just think
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I remember the Perfect Storm and it's
Ralph
funny.
wrecked the internet. Ralph Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, Wreck-It Ralph.
The voice of Wreck-It
I
Ralph.
never did see that, but it's so funny because the first few movies I saw of him, he always seemed to die by drowning. Yeah, just
Yeah, no, he doesn't drown in Wreck-It Ralph. In fact,
yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph is one of my favorite all-time movies. If you haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph, it's
Wait,
worth watching.
isn't that a cartoon?
Yeah, yes, it
Okay,
is.
okay, that's okay. That's okay. Listen,
But it's
I love
really
Toy Story, so I'm not judging it.
it's
I'm just
it's one of those films that's made on a higher level, but you have to be a big video game lover to enjoy it.
oh, gotcha. Yeah, because there's Ralph breaks the internet or something.
Well, that's the sequel, but the first one is just
Sequel.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Just
And
Wreck-It Ralph.
again, if you've ever wondered what the life of a video game character was like when you're not playing it, that's the whole idea of Wreck-It Ralph is what
Yeah,
goes on.
well, speaking of of these video games, there was a time when they would like sell out Staples Center for just people watching other people play video games.
Yep.
But I think that's waned quite a bit, hasn't it?
No, they still do. Those are still big
Oh, they are?
contests, and
Okay.
they don't necessarily sell out live arenas for that, but the online viewing of that is still huge. And
Yeah,
there's
I mean, so many people are doing things online just in general. So,
right, right, but there's
yeah,
still a lot of money in all of that, and I definitely miss my calling when it came to that. I wish
yeah.
I did have a career as a video game jockey. I probably could have been pretty good at it if such a profession had A existed when I was, in
Yeah,
college, and B, if somehow I wouldn't be completely disowned by my parents if I did something like that.
of
Which
course.
it's bad enough that I was a pro wrestling manager, but
Yeah.
it would be. And
Well,
while we have a moment, I also want to commemorate the life of Walter Davis.
Walter Davis.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yeah, Walter Davis, the Phoenix Sun shooting guard. He
Oh,
died last week.
how old was he?
69. So
Hmm.
not really that old. And it's
No.
getting to a point where a lot of NBA players from that, 60s, 70s era,
Yeah.
early 80s, they're now kind of hitting the wall and dying. But I always was a fan of Walter Davis, and he was always a very quality point guard, shooting guard, and always had a very clean reputation and was a hard worker. And
No, I
the world
remember
is,
him.
you don't remember Walter Davis, so you have
I
to look it
don't,
up.
for some reason, yeah, I'll have to look at him. But thinking of, you mentioned about people dying and stuff. I looked at this too. Bronny Davis could be cleared to return to USC after his cardiac arrest. And I don't know. I mean, it gets a little nerve wracking. thinking about, excuse me, you think about Hank Gathers and, those kind of guys who, you gotta be kind of careful of your heart.
Sure. I mean, Chris Bosch is another guy for,
Oh, yeah.
he had major heart issues that caused him to retire. And, we still don't know about LeBron James' son and his heart
Well,
issues.
that's Bronny. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And Hamlin
Yeah.
returned back to football in the NFL?
Yeah. I know.
You
It's
know,
a little scary about that too. Hey, by the
but
way,
these
how's your,
guys, you can't tell them that they can't continue to do their business if they
yeah.
if they make medical clearance and they say they're okay. But we have had a couple other big scares this season on the field.
Yeah.
Guys get knocked out and needing to be hauled off to the hospital. Just you know something like football or anything super active like basketball, you'll have that issue sometimes.
Yeah. Well, hey, by the way, how's your fantasy football team doing?
Now, thank you. Now that's something that I really appreciate. I'm now at 4-5, so the quest for 500 is alive, which is
Okay.
nice.
All
And I
right.
finally played some teams that got hit by the bye really badly, and so they weren't scoring 150, 160 points every week. Now I'm facing some teams that are kind of ghost shipping it, and
Gotcha.
they're because when you get like the heavy buys that come in, and this season it's weird.
Hey, Russell, hold on to that. We have to go to our last
Okay.
question here. Okay.
All
Rick
right.
Adelman coached for which team from 1999 to 2006?
Okay.
Okay. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Our third trivia question. Rick Adelman coached which team from 1999 to 2006?
Boy, do they miss him. And until Mike Brown came, Rick Adelman was the best coach that the Sacramento Kings ever had.
There you go. Hey, 3 for 3. Figured I'd have to kind of
yeah, we're in my wheelhouse now. So,
yes.
Enough about Harvey Killebrew and Dizzy Gillespie.
Well, maybe maybe I'll have to have some hard NBA questions. Okay,
you can bring them on.
Okay, well, here's an easy one. Who was the first big man? The first man.
George Mikan.
That's right. Very good.
All this stuff just washes right off of me. That part I don't have to sit there and like rack my brain about who was Yogi Berra's grandfather or something like that.
Well, okay, maybe next week we'll have a little bit harder questions.
Bring it on.
Okay, are you ready for our thoughts for the day? And then we'll ask about your fantasy team next week, how well you did. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, why don't mummies take time off?
They're wrapped too tight.
Close. They're afraid to unwind. But that's pretty good. I'll give you credit for that. That's pretty good. And and I can tell when people are being judgmental just by looking at them.
There you go.
There you go. We got a good snicker out of Russell.
Yeah, I'll take that one.
You'll take that one? Okay, good. All right, audience. We'll end on that. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.